Hello and welcome back to the channel. Thank you so much for jumping in. We are going to talk about what VCs are really looking for in the startups that they're looking to invest in. I'm Nancy Kay Coy. Thank you for joining the Nancy Kay Coy Show. We're going to talk about what investors really are looking for when they're talking to startup founders that they're thinking about putting money into. You know, it's really funny. If you're a founder and like you, or many of you that are listening, I am and have been a startup founder. And I get exactly where you are. I've raised a lot of money for my companies. And I know that when I was sitting in your seat as a startup founder, if I would ask 12 people about investing and what investors were looking for, I would get 12 different answers. So having sat in many of investor meetings and conversations, then what I would do is put together kind of an overview for you so that you know that if you have this list sort of solidified, you're going to position yourself to be much more investable. Investable. Yeah, I think that's the right word, investable. Anyway, all right. So let's talk about the truth. Let's talk about the clear problem that is scalable that a VC would want to invest in. You know, VCs are interesting. They want to fund big problems. They want to fund problems that address a huge, big market. If you can't clearly articulate the pain point that your company solves or addresses, and it's got to be better, it's got to be faster, it's got to be cheaper than the others, it's going to be a pass. And there's nothing more frustrating. I've been there where it's you're trying to get investors on the phone. That's hard enough, and then you have this conversation with them, and they ask you to send them your slide deck. You do, and then it's crickets. Well, it's because most people don't know how to articulate this right away. Now, this is the other thing. Investors are investing in you. Don't even for 1 second think it's all about the product or service that you offer. It's about you, the founder. It's about your grit. It's about your ability to be coachable. It's about your ability to rally a team and be able to pivot when necessary. VCs bet on jockeys, not on horses. I was on the phone yesterday with a founder, and he just started, sweet guy, but he was just diarrheaing all over me about his business. I'm like, dude, you're scaring me. You're telling me everything. And I didn't want to hear that. I wanted to hear about him and what he was going to do to move this needle. And which is my next point, de-risking the business at every stage. VCs are constantly looking for you to de-risk their investment. They're constantly evaluating the risk. Why should they put money in your business versus something else? They want businesses that have either, reduced the technical risk, the market risk, the team risk, the revenue risk. The more traction, the more validation, and the clarity that you can provide, the more investable you become. Product market fit, or for heaven's sakes, at least a roadmap to get there, are real people willing to spend real money or are paying real money for the solution that your business or service provides. There's nothing better than going to an investor and showing them that you have a product or service that the market wants, right? You've got to make sure that your go-to-market strategy is that it's strong and grounded in real customer feedback. Sometimes in this technical world, I think we forget that. We just go and we build and we think that this idea or this service or whatever is going to meet or have product market fit, but we don't even have any customer feedback. You know who was absolutely awesome at this and really nailed this down with Steve Jobs? You know, before he would even build a computer, before he did anything, he knew that he was going to create something that his customers wanted. He really did. He knew how to do that. He had customers before he started building anything. Now, if you're an investor, that's a pretty good story. De-risk, 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 right? Okay, so traction tells the story. That could be revenue, it could be user growth, or user growth. It could be partnerships, or even a powerful wait list. Hello, Steve Jobs. Right back to him. Show evidence the market really, really wants what you're building. Big vision with a practical plan. Now, a lot of times we get what we call startup porn. You know, everybody tells you, oh, I'm a unicorn. Do not say that to investors. Do not go to an investor and say, I'm a unicorn. That is code for run for the hills, just so you know. We want big vision, but we want a practical plan. We want to see that you know how you're gonna where you're going, how you're gonna get there, and how you're gonna do it step by step. If you can't articulate step by step what you're gonna do, you haven't thought through everything. Moonshots are great if they're mapped to milestones. Okay. Now, this is really practical, but so often we don't think through this step. The time to be looking for money is when you don't need it. Now, that sounds kind of contradictory in the banking world, but it's true, right? So, what happens a lot of times is founders will reach out and they'll want, obviously, funding for the business, duh. And they'll get on a phone call and they'll tell us all about their business. And they'll ask for money on the first date. That's as bad as meeting some dude. He asks you out on a date and he asks you to marry him the first day. No. You got to build a relationship. Remember, if these people are putting money in your business, they're going to be with you for a long, long, long time, probably, unless they're buying you out right away. So really think about, there's good money and there's bad money. And that's different for every single different founder. It is different based on who you are. Remember, they're investing in you. So think through your investment strategy early on in your business. So often, you have a founder that they're bootstrapping and doing really well. And then all of a sudden, somebody will come along and like their product or service and want to do a huge order, or want to partner. I mean, whatever they want to use your service, and you're like, oh my gosh, now I got to go find money. That's why it's so important that if you're bootstrapping, you should be prepared as to get investor capital as fast as you can. It takes about 6 to 9 months usually to get a really good deal. So you want to start building those relationships now. And if you follow me on LinkedIn, which you can do at Nancy Kay Coy, you will see I post stuff about investor highlights and startup advice almost every single day. And this is one thing that we really kind of zero in on, is just you got to make sure that you build your network before you need it, that you're not asking somebody for money instantaneously. What's going to happen to you is, if you're in that situation, you're probably going to end up diluting a ton. I'm going to tell you another story. I was talking to a great founder yesterday. You know how you just meet some people and you just really, really, really like them? I really, really, really like this guy. And just a super guy. Him and his wife have built this really, really cool business. And he's doing his numbers are good. But all of a sudden, because his product is so good, he is now being faced with, probably walking away from $50 million in business because he doesn't have the money to grow and scale. You know how sad that is? And if he doesn't get the money, his clients are probably going to go somewhere else. And he's got a great, great, great product. So we're helping him fix that. But just the point, what I'm trying to tell you is that the time to be looking for money is when you don't need it. You know, founders, don't just pitch your product. Tell the story, tell your vision. You know, people buy on emotion, right? Investors aren't any different than you. They buy based on who you are and in the story and how you tell the story, your traction, your grit, and how you're building something VCs basically can't afford to miss out on. If you're having questions or you need help, please reach out to us at canaglobal.org. That's CANA global, GLOBAL.org. We actually have 3 pathways at Cana. We have on-demand classes for the founder who wants to do it themselves and figure all this stuff out. Or you can interview for our incubator. We have a really cool incubator that helps founders learn how to attract customers appropriately, how to attract investors. You know, the greatest relationships with investors if they're calling you, just so you know. That's how I prefer it. When I was doing my startup founder days, I liked it a lot better when investors were calling me versus me having to try to attract them. And for those of you who have a business that is doing over $1 million a year in revenue, you can apply for our venture studio. Now, be mindful, we are faith-based. We do not invest in anybody that we don't mentor. We do not invest in anybody that is not faith-based and equally yoked with us. But that doesn't mean that if you don't subscribe to that, that doesn't mean you still can get the on-demand classes. You can still absolutely join the incubator. We're just not going to put money in the company until we're all like-minded, which is really smart, right? We don't have a lot of failure in the businesses that we invest in because we know what we're doing. So again, thank you so much for joining in. Again, if you like the content, if this is helpful to somebody that you know or love and they're starting a business or thinking about starting a business, or maybe they're stuck, right? It happens. We want to end startup failure, and how do you do that? Well, you reach out to people that know what they're doing, and we absolutely do. So thank you again for the time, and share the content, like the channel, help us spread it around, and let's help women all over the globe move that needle from 3 to 5% in the funding world, which is one of my personal big goals this year. We want to get more women funded. All right, talk to you soon. Make it a great day. Bye for now.